All right, what's up, my brothers? So in this video, we're going to be talking about a list of shared parenting states. A lot of guys have asked me to put out some more specific content on minimizing the risks of getting divorced and losing access to their children because, historically, that's the biggest selling point of getting married is, of course, you get to spend time with your kids. But unfortunately, half the time, 50% of the time, marriages don't work out. And currently, the stats say something like around 8 out of 10 times women are getting custody of the children. Family courts, generally speaking, around the world are generally hostile towards fathers. And I covered in my book a number of the reasons, and I'm going to share some of the data here on the screen in just a moment. But there's an entire chapter in my book dedicated to why smart men no longer marry. You can get this on Amazon in print, Kindle, and Audible. It'll be pinned in the top comment below, and it's also available on Gumroad now as well too. So one of the things that you've got to understand is that because of women's nature, they're going to seek primary custody of the children. There are scenarios where they're stay-at-home moms and they might have been doing most of the parenting, and dad was out chasing excellence, bringing home the bacon, and she was supposedly cooking it up and taking care of the family. There's other scenarios where they're both professionals and they're both chasing careers, and they hash out some other sort of parenting schedule during their marriage. Now, when you untie the knot, generally speaking, because we can see with the results, again, 8 out of 10 times women are getting custody, it's because of two things. One, it's control. So they can make unilateral decisions without the father's consent. They want to do medical procedures. They want to move to a different location. They want to hyphenate the last name, change religions, all that sort of thing. Can more often not, again, this varies from state to state and province to province type of legislation, can more often not do whatever they want, whenever they want. So most dads aren't too happy about that. I had a coaching call about a week ago with this guy who was getting divorced, and his wife, or soon to be ex, was something like 9 or 10 years older than him. They were married for about a decade or so. And one of the reasons why they were splitting up was because because they had differences of opinion with parenting. She wanted to transition the son from a boy to a girl, and he didn't see the need for it, didn't really see any obvious signs, and suggested he could decide later on when he gets older. So that's part of the acrimony that can come up. There's a very famous case, I think, in the last 2 or 3 years. There was a father in Texas. I think it was Texas, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody can correct me in the comments, but he took it to the top level court system because his ex-wife, who had primary custody, was transitioning his son, one of his sons anyway, from a boy to a girl, and doing testosterone blockers and estrogen, addition protocols to his maturing, and calling him by a female name while at his house. He was called by his birth name. And the courts basically said, towards the end of it, too bad, she's got the decision to make this if that's what she wants to do. So, of course, the guy's heartbroken. So this is something that you really have to consider. I mean, this is just one of many stories that I've heard. I've had many one-on-one calls with guys over the years. Some of them are heartbreaking. Some of them I can be quite useful depending on when they approach me. But in this video, I'm going to show you which states are friendly to fathers. And I think that you should consider, if you're a man, moving to one of these states if you plan on having children. So by definition over here, and by the way, you can find this if you just go to Wikipedia and you search for a list of shared parenting legislation right there by state. It's broken down in a chart, which I'll share with you in a minute, and kind of go through and offer some feedback. But what it says here is it's shared parenting is more common at the expense of sole custody, which is going to be in contradiction to what the mother wants, because again, she wants control. And then the other thing that follows up with that, which I forgot to mention when I was talking about it earlier, is it comes with financial enrichment. If you're the custodial parent and you've got the child like 85% of the time, and daddy gets like the every other weekend deal and maybe a Wednesday night dinner sort of thing, you're getting child support. And child support is not for the child. I mean, here in Canada anyway, and you can check out the tables where you live, but here, it's a percentage of your income. So while maybe if you're married, you're spending $500 a month for your toddler for diapers and food and clothing and stuff like that. If you split up and you're a big income earner, she could be entitled to, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 a month, depending on how much your income is, because it's a percentage of the income, not what the child needs. So it creates a enrichment to the parent that ends up having custody, which is more often not the mom, because by default, the way most family court systems still work today is the mom is more important, which we all know is not true anymore. Again, here it says right here in the opening, based on scientific studies showing that children do better with shared versus sole custody. There are many organizations that advocate for shared parenting legislation. And that's one of the reasons why I tell guys, look, whenever they're, going on about, well, I'm just going to hire a surrogate to, birth my child and blah, blah, blah. It's not a good idea, from the other perspective, because quite simply, kids need both parents. It's like there's no parent that's more important than the other. Now, with that being said, they break down some concepts within shared parenting legislation with legal presumption versus consideration and 50-50 versus joint physical custody and the definitions of that and how that breaks down. That's going to vary from state to state. But what I wanted to do with this is basically break down which ones are friendlier to fathers and which ones are hostile. So if you're planning on having kids, it's my view for guys that ask for my opinion, that have been asking for my opinion on this for a long time, live in a state that's not hostile towards fathers. And we'll go through that right now. Up here starting, they've got Canada, Finland, and Italy, obviously not states, but countries themselves. I was looking at this bill when I was getting divorced about a decade ago, Bill C-560, and it failed in Parliament. They voted against it, and it never happened. So there was a glimmer of hope for some guys at the time, but that got chucked away. Basically, if you live in Canada, you're screwed. You're going to have to fight for a shared parenting schedule. And I've talked about that before, so I'm not going to beat that one too much. Now, we've got Finland and Italy over here, which are in pending status for their information. If I'm not mistaken, this might be outdated because this is 2018. I think Italy passed this. You can check locally. Again, you guys can comment below and let me know for clarity's sake. Now, not every state is mentioned here. Like, for example, this is all in alphabetical order. We don't see California in here. So I'm going to presume that California doesn't want to participate in voting on the notion of a shared parenting schedule. California is one of the more hostile states towards fathers. It's a very, very difficult state to get divorced in, and most guys get completely destroyed. So that would be one of the avoid states. But I'll go through these one by one. So what I'll do is I'll spend time highlighting the ones that are thumbs up. And in Alabama, we've got a bill that passed in Upper House. Now, I'm not familiar with the American, legislation, the way they push stuff through. I believe they call it Congress. I mean, here, they basically vote on it. They have critics that look at the bill. And I know this from personal experience because I worked on Bill 55 here about 10 years ago in the credit and collection industry. And then it gets voted on, then it goes through royal assent, which is, the old British system sort of thing. And then it becomes law. And that can take maybe months. It can take sometimes years, depending on what's going on, whether or not it's an election year, if there's stuff that holds it up. But you'll start to see that some of these got held in pending status and didn't really go anywhere, or they died in committee, for example. Anyway, so Alabama basically died. They passed it in favor, but it's sitting in a pending state as of 2019. That may change. Now, one thing that I would advise you guys to look at if you're looking at a pending state, or if it's passed, look at the vote. Okay, like this one's 25-4-6, which seems like it's strongly in favor of. So that should hold. It also looks like that it's a Republican state. The guy that sponsored it is a Republican Congress member. I don't know. I'm probably butchering that. Are they Congress members? Whatever they're called. As a Canadian, forgive me. Right? Alaska failed. Alaska still. It's been co-sponsored and they've tried to reignite it. Doesn't look like it's gone anywhere. So Alaska's a no-go. Arizona is a strong pass. Arizona is favorable to fathers. There were several folks in Congress, it looks. Is it Congress? Anyway, what do they say here? Member of Arizona State Senate. Sorry, it's Senate. So there's several members here that sponsor this one. So it's got strong backing. And it's been passed with a 28-0 vote. So that should stick for a long time. I'd recommend Arizona based on that. They had a vote in 2017, and it looks like I don't know if they tried to change it or what, but it looks like it's active. You should always check with a local lawyer, though, in the state before you move to it, and definitely consider a prenup if that's something that might need to be looked at. Arkansas is pending. Connecticut failed. Florida got vetoed. So this is interesting because that's more of a red state, sponsored by one Republican member in Senate. And the bill passed 24-14, which is not a strong, it's not an overwhelming win. And then it looks like somebody vetoed it, so it didn't become law. But I don't know, like I was always under the impression that Florida was a better state for fathers. Has that changed recently? Did this get updated in the last little while? I don't know. This guy, Scott, anyway, Georgia died. Hawaii vetoed, removed by amendment. So that's not friendly. Hawaii pending still. Looks like they've presented it again. Referred to human services homeless students. I'm not sure what that means, but it says pending right now. Either way, it's not favorable. You know, if it failed in the past or it doesn't have a strong 28-0 vote, I'd say skip it. Illinois, that's a pass. Illinois, Indiana, failed. Says pending over here. Again, not strong for it. Iowa, failed 3 times. They passed it once, 33-16. Again, in favor, but didn't become law. It doesn't seem. Iowa's mentioned several times here. I'm not sure where they've broken it down this way, but this is a flip-flopping sort of scenario. I'd basically say it's a pass. If it's not a clear win, if it's not a hell yeah, then it should be a fuck no, straight up. Kansas is a failed. Kentucky's a strong pass. Kentucky's a very strong. So we have Arizona, we have Kentucky. If you're looking to have kids, those are good states for you. Passed 38-0. So Senate agrees that fathers are important there, and that would be a place to look at if you want to raise kids. Maine was a failed. Maryland failed. It looks like they have another pending, but this is for child support, something slightly different. Massachusetts failed. Michigan failed. Minnesota passed 46-19, but vetoed by this Democrat over here. So Minnesota is definitely a pass for fathers. Do not move or go there if you want to have kids. Mississippi's failed. Missouri is a pass. Now there's 3 here for Missouri, which looks like this bill deals with child support, which is not particularly relevant to shared parenting. But we've got other ones here for presumption 50-50 and shared. Pass, committee, no vote, failed. I think you'd want to get some clarity from a family lawyer on this one. Missouri's got lots of entries here. I don't know if you guys can see on your screen, but it looks like all the way down here, there's a lot of back and forth in that state. And while it looks like there's some strong push for a shared parenting state, it doesn't look like they're in full agreement. So I would not want to move or live there. Montana's a pass. New Hampshire is a pass. And when I'm saying pass, I mean don't live there, like pass on living there. I'm not saying like, the bill pass. I mean, you can see here clearly it's red. Pending for New Hampshire, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York pending, and North Carolina failed. So none of this is favorable. I would stay out of all of those areas. We have North Dakota, which passed the initial test, but it failed to become law, it looks like. So North Dakota's a do not have kids state. North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma passed, but it's in a pending status. It passed strongly, 90 votes in favor. So you can keep an eye open for that, but it doesn't look like that it's become law. Oregon is friendly towards fathers, it seems. In the past, it died in committee and failed to become law, and it has passed in favor 29-0. So it looks like Oregon's favorable. So we had Arizona, Oregon, and Kentucky. Let's see what else we got. The rest of these, South Carolina, nope. Tennessee, nope. Texas failed. Interesting. Texas is a strong Republican state. You'd think that they would, yeah. Okay, well, there you go, guys. Vermont, no. We have Virginia pass. Ooh, that's favorable. Initial vote was 98-0, and then they passed it at 40-0. So that's strong. So you could consider Virginia. West Virginia is in a pending status, which isn't favorable. Wisconsin doesn't tell you what the voting ratio was, but it looks like that it's passed. Presumption joint custody is in child's best interest. That's what you want. You want states that start from the position that kids need both parents, not one parent is more important than the other. We'll treat one parent like tax cattle and steal the money from them and give it to the other parent while they do what they want. Forget that. Your life will be much simpler if you have kids in a state that views a father as useful. Wisconsin looks good, so that's a thumbs up for them. And that's it. That's all we got. I mean, some of the states and territories aren't mentioned here. So, I mean, you can do your own research by asking a family lawyer in that state, but it looks like we have Wisconsin, Virginia, that's 2, Oregon, 3, and Missouri, 4, which is questionable because there's a lot of red here with different entries with different sponsors, and they're not showing you the vote ratio. So Missouri's up in the air. So I'm just going to kind of wiggle that finger, but that's 4. Minnesota died. Maryland, no good. Kentucky is 5. And Arizona is 6. That's what you got, guys. You got six choices if you live in the US. Now, that's better than Canada because we have none. It's screw you if you're a dad, basically. You're going to have to fight. So I hope that helps. If you have any further feedback or experience, you're going to want to comment below. Also, I should have put this up as well. One of the other things that you can do to try to minimize the risk, I mean, read the book, okay? Just get the book. It's $10 as a Kindle. If you don't want to spend the money, cool, I get it. You can get on my email list over here, and you can get the free chapter on red flags. The chapter on red flags will help you identify potentially problematic women, which would, of course, exacerbate the divorce process because problematic women just become more difficult going through the divorce machine. It just is what it is. So you can hop on my email list and grab that chapter for free, or just grab the book off Amazon. And throw a comment below if you have any further clarifiers, because some of these were in pending status. And I'm sure some of you guys out there might have some experience personally up to date where this Wikipedia is not up to date on certain states. But I think usually in the past, Wiki's been pretty good. Anyway, there you go, guys. There's your video on, how to minimize the risk on getting divorce raped. All right. See you guys in the next one. Peace out.